number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 317, Sports Card Nation podcast. As always, glad to be back. Hope your New Year's Eve and New Year's was a safe and happy one. And, looking forward to 2025. Time's just flying by. The years are flying by for me. You get to my age, and that's what happens. But, got a first-time guest ever on the show, and he's a great guy, and glad to have him on, and doing a lot of big things in the hobby. He kind of wears another guy that wears a lot of hats, and has got his finger right on the front lines and in the trenches of the hobby. And again, I know I say it a lot, but I always try to have good folks on the show, and this guy, to me, checks those boxes. Who is it? Alex Tressler, ArmyATC22, former military, U.S. military man. Thank you for your service, Alex. And now he's serving the hobby and doing a great job doing that. So we're gonna talk about some of the things he does and the grind and the show schedule, and then flying around, driving around, and loves the hobby, passionate, and that comes through in all his content as well. And just talking to him, that comes through. So real excited to have him on, and we'll get to that conversation with Alex after this 30-second break. And we'll be back with Alex Tressler.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Real happy to have my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. One of the hardest working guys in the hobby, as I like to say. There's a few, but this guy's in the mix for one on that top line, and glad to finally have him on the show and get to chop it up with him. Alex Tressler, welcome to Sports Card Nation.
I appreciate it, John. Everyone says, hey, really hardworking and stuff like that. And again, like we've discussed this off air. Like if it's not fun, like, hey, it could be hard and fun at the same time. It is a grind. It is. But I appreciate you having me come on, and anyone that really can see people like really going out there and trying to get amongst the community, amongst the hobby, rather than just staying online and hiding behind the computer. I'm a people person. I've always been a people person. I don't think I can ever be that type of person to remote work and everything else like that. I've got to be right there next to someone. So
yeah, I'm a people person too, but more the older, the second half of my life here than my younger. I'm actually, believe it or not, pretty shy guy, especially when I was younger. And then I think you get to an age, Alex. I mean, in my case, only speaking for myself, you get to an age and you're like, you know what? I don't care what people think. I'm just gonna be myself, and then I think you sort of open up more and you get less shy and less inhibition. So it probably took me like 30 years, 20 some years and change to get to there. But I get it, right? And that's what the hobby, like the tagline of the show is, right? The hobby is the people, and to share that passion with a group of folks, and that's what it's all about. And we're going to talk about that grind here later in the conversation. But like you said, it's got to be fun too. If it's just a grind and no fun, then you're not going to last very long, or you're probably going to, get sick or burn yourself out and that sort of thing. So it's got to be a little bit of both, and you do a great job. We're gonna pick your brain to how you pull it off and that sort of thing coming up. But it's your first time on this pod. It's kind of the question we always start off with the first time you're on is kind of where where did the hobby start for you? How, why, where, all that fun stuff.
I mean, like most people, the hobby started years ago when I was a real young kid. I collected with my dad and my brother, growing up and everything, and little things from just the little card shows to our LCS that we had in town. Trying to find packs and stuff. Didn't really back then. There wasn't bounties. There wasn't cards that everyone was searching for because they're worth a whole bunch of money. There's a passion, the passion of just spending the time with your dad and your brother doing this type of stuff. We would get the cereals and get the UPCs, send them in. So they'd send the packs back and everything else like that. We'd be so indulged in that. Be like, I need more honeycomb cereal, mom, because we got to get some packs and everything, in the mail. Little things like that. That's where it originally started. But I tell everyone, and I know a lot of people probably think the same way. At some point back then, it stopped. Like I think the Men in Black, pretty much used the mind eraser type of thing. It's like, I did nothing with cards. I blame it on probably puberty, and I found out it was girls, everything else, and stuff like that, right? So there was a big gap there. I wasn't involved in it, and the thing is like today's society, you see that gap where I wasn't in it, and a lot of people probably weren't either. Those kids, those young adults, those teenagers and stuff are in it like crazy, which is incredible. I love seeing that. But I came back in as an adult. Had a pretty bad divorce, and I needed a hobby. This is a hobby. Need something, get my mind off everything. And I saw one of my coworkers was like, bring your kids to work day and stuff like that. And him and his son was opening a 2008 Topps Chrome baseball box. And I was just like, wow, like the card stock looks a little different. It's pretty cool looking. And then they pulled an autograph, and I'm like, I don't remember that from like really early, late 80s to early 90s. I don't remember autos like so much in the packs. So, like most other people, I did a deep dive. I went on Google, I went on YouTube, I went everywhere else, and I was just search, and I just saw all of a sudden, I'm like, holy crap! Like this industry is monstrous. There's bigger cards out there, pretty cool cards. Their jerseys and patches are included in it, top of autographs and so many different products. And that's when I found out that one of the people that was online opening for people and everything on YouTube, Chris Justice from Cards Infinity,
Yep.
literally lived an hour, not even an hour away from me in Wilmington, North Carolina, where his shop was, the Hobby Box was at. And I was at the time in Fort Bragg, North. Picked his brain a good bit and started my own YouTube channel in 2008. Started doing some group breaks myself. It was completely different from then and from today, because the community, we were all just trying to get into an expensive product for a fraction of the price, the power of a group. But we're all collectors. We weren't trying to make money on it. We weren't businesses and everything else. We were just trying to have fun and enjoying it. And I had a couple big hits, a couple big reactions that were, went viral right away back when a hit goes viral in 2008, like that's like 2,000 people seeing it compared to the millions that see this stuff today, right? And a lot of people know me from that. I know a lot of content creators that are out there today that are in the younger generation. When they see me at shows, when they see me everywhere else, they're like, yeah, you used to be the person I watched when I was in middle school. You used to be in this and that and stuff. I thank you so much I can't believe you're still around and everything. So it just grew and grew and grew. And then over the years now, I'm out of the military now and everything. And it's more of it is a passion and a hobby, and I'm able to have more time to do more stuff with it. So it's evolved to even more greater than I thought it would ever be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think you agree with this too, Alex. I'm 40 years plus doing this now. It's a completely different hobby. I think you sort of touched on that. And, I grew up in the era where, you'd have packs or you'd buy a box of cards and your buddies, hey, open mine. Let me help you open some of yours. And I'd be like, no, I'll get your own or get more, right? And we went from that era to now you mentioned like group breaking where you pay somebody and they literally open the packs for you and then you get the cards potentially. So it's just funny how stuff that, we wouldn't have never thought of then or thought of doing then is just the norm now. It's like no big deal. And how that opinions and different things can change. Even when I was younger, like you'd never get a rookie card signed. You would ruining it. You were writing on that player's rookie card. Now that's a huge market. And then you factor in the grading and the authentication. So it's just different things will change and what sort of we were like, didn't like or didn't accept before is now really just even what's expected. And it's funny how the hobby evolves
Well,
and
I'll
yeah, go
even chime
ahead.
in. Like, how many people are putting a card on the back of their bike spokes to make it sound like, a motorcycle these days, or I should say, like, put it in the back of their hoverboard, right? But people ride around and stuff like that and everything these days. So that, I mean, yes, everything changes. We wouldn't even think to put any cards to ruin them these days, whatever. Even though majority of the people base cards and packs are like, this is King Ling. We could throw this away or whatever. They wouldn't even think to do that.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad, who's been on the show twice, to tell stories about the mantles and the cards that they had back then, and just threw them around, rubber band. People know it's. I'm not going to spend too much time with, but it's a different hobby, and and in many cases a better one as well. I don't want to make it sound like it's the old man on the porch, although I'm a little bit of that. First off, thank you for your military service to the country. During your time in the service, how much of the hobby was going on while you were, sir? Did you have, Army, people that you worked with that also collect? Did you have time? I know, you were deployed and different things like that. Were you able to still hobby during that time, or did it have to sort of go on the back burner?
So when I got back in 2008, of course, I was in the military at that time for 8 years because I came in 2000. I retired just 2 years ago after 22 years. So for the last, you can do the simple, quick math, right? I was pretty immersed in it. YouTube channel, was going strong from mail days and opening boxes in Afghanistan during my downtime and everything else. I blow out cards. Shout out to them. I stuff they would send me packages. I would order and I would get them in 5 days in Afghanistan. Like, that's faster than the West Coast product
Well, it's
from.
it's it's faster than shipping today.
Yeah, it's wild that I would get, because they'd have to come PS, military postal service, and whenever people see addresses, they're like, "What's APO AE? What's APO? That's Armed Forces Europe, or Armed Forces over in Asia and stuff like that, for Korea and stuff like that. Like, those are pretty probably veterans, military service members that goes over to their addresses. So luckily we had, like, even a FedEx on the base when I was deployed, not the last time, first time and second time in Afghanistan. And I would be busting boxes, I would be opening stuff. And my biggest hits were actually in Afghanistan that I've ever pulled in my life. And I've sold them on eBay and I shipped them out via FedEx, and I got to them, like, everyone has these the stories, like, I sold too soon, or what's the one I regret and everything. And mine is orange Bowman first of Mike Trout from '09 draft, 1 of 25. I knew it was mine because I saw it later in a Facebook group. It was graded 9.5/10 from BGS, and I knew it was mine because it was 1 of 25. I sold that card raw $700, and at the time, right in the
Yeah.
beginning of 2010, he wasn't a top prospect. He was his base autos that go for a couple thousand a day were selling for $25. So the orange paid for the whole case. The whole case was $700, and it paid for it. And back then I was ecstatic. I'm like, I don't know who this prospect is, whatever. I think the peak during COVID, that card got to close to 1 million. So that
Yeah.
everyone has those stories and stuff. And then I'm like, here, I got one for you. Like, I'm not trying to trump you, but I'm pretty sure I win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been digging deep in it. If it wasn't YouTube groups, it was the forums, it was Facebook groups, it was everything from the breaking on YouTube to Breakers TV to Block TV to to what that is today, and Fanatics and whatnot and everything else, and all the different newer apps that are out there and stuff. I get immersed in it, and I just have fun.
Yeah, that's what the hobby's supposed to be, fun. And yeah, I hear you. I feel your pain a little bit on the Mike Trout, but like you said, you didn't know, and you didn't lose. You didn't lose. I guess that's
No.
the silver lining. If we all had hindsight being 2020, right? If we all knew then what we know now, right? We all. I don't have that. You're right. That beats my story, but mine is and I've told it a million times. So I'll just mention real quick. Just being in New York, Jeter in '93, the SP foil rookie, was a big deal. I didn't think he was going to be what he wound up turning out to be. I thought he was just a good-looking young guy, starting shortstop for the Yankees. So I thought he was a little overrated. So in probably a 2 to 3 year span, I just sold probably 130 to 150 of those from, and I'm not saying I wouldn't have sold some, but I definitely would have kept a lot more.
Yeah.
Knowing now what if I knew then what I know now. But
Whenever
you can't.
whenever someone
Yeah,
finds Marty McFly, just send them our way so we can go back and
yeah.
tell
We'll
ourselves.
go with we'll get in the DeLorean with Dr. Brown and tell him we'll take turns going
Just
to
don't
to
sell anything. Just wait till 2020 and then go ham. Trust us and buy all the Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's funny.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
We are back.
During your military time, were there a lot of people were coworkers? Did you have some people that were collecting like you were, or was it more?
So
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
I can, a lot of people can understand the same concept that I'm going to talk about is how many people out there try to not so much hide the hobby, right, from other individuals because they're kind of not saying ashamed of it, but they don't want to be thought of differently, right? In the military, you have to think there's a lot of A-type personalities out there, and how would my coworkers think about me collecting, little baseball cards, basketball cards, and stuff like that? So it wasn't something that you're like shouting off the rooftops and everything. What you shout off is just like, yeah, I got this card for like $20 and I sold it for 300. Like, oh, I made a nice little profit. Eventually, when someone finds out you're doing it, it'd be like, well, there's another aspect of it. It's cool to collect stuff. Like people collect stamps, everything else, right? And stuff, whatever. Like this is what I collect. This is my hobby. Like keep working on your motorcycles. You can be doing this or whatever. Like that's your hobby. Everyone is different. And that's what's great about this world. But in the military aspect, you think of the A-type personalities, just trying to be like, I'm trying to be better than everyone else and this and that or whatever, probably getting the mindset. So you're not going around, you really telling a lot of people, and you just randomly run into them at like the LCS or something like that. You can tell from each other. You have the haircuts and you're wearing a certain clothes and stuff like that. You'd be like, what military you are and everything. And there's more people out there. I know I did a piece for Hobby News Daily on it, talking about there's a lot of military veterans out there that people just don't know. Like they were in already before or in whatever, right? I mean, I was an hour north of you in Watertown when I was stationed at Fort Drum, New York. Like,
Yeah,
no clue
that's
you were
right.
there. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
But I've ran into multiple people, of course, how it got me back in as an adult, like the story I said earlier, and a few other times where I've traveled to other states and everything. I've ran into other individuals that got very interested because one, they were probably scrolling through YouTube and somehow the algorithm just like, I saw you come across my YouTube stuff. Like, what are you doing? And it still happens today. My Instagram, my TikToks and stuff like that. I have people be like, reach out to me, or I see them at work and I'll be like, hold on a second, and the funniest one was one of my boss's kids actually is into the hobby and stuff, and he just moved here, and he called me in his office. He said, I got a question. ArmyATC22, and I'm like, yep, that's me. Just like, so do you collect cards? Do you have are you in a hobby? He's like, my son is, and apparently now I'm going to, so I need some help. So that rolled into me doing more jobs as the social media manager for the company and stuff like that too. So it's pretty cool and everything. But yeah, there's more military people out there than most people know that are involved in it, and that that can be a good thing, because we're the military get instilled with the discipline and and everything else, like the integrity and stuff like that, right? Well, you need a lot of that stuff in this hobby, especially the discipline of not blowing your whole paycheck on one box of cards or something else like that, right? And everything. So there's a lot of us out there. You just got to find us.
Yeah, it's a great point too. Like in 2008, the hobby was in a different place, and it wasn't mainstream as it is as much as it is today. You didn't have celebrity endorsements or celebrities. You didn't have heck. Social media wasn't what it is now.
No.
Then, right? It was in its infancy and that sort of thing. So it's. I heard your answer, and it makes a lot of sense, and I get that. What do you collect at this point, Alex? What's your what do you kind of gravitate towards?
I have multiple things that I do. Like, a lot of people know, my main collection is Pat Tillman. The ties that I have with him being in the Army, and the sacrifice that he did of leaving the NFL to become into the military, and he turned into Army Ranger and everything else like that, or whatever. So a lot of my main collection for cards is just Pat Tillman, and now I have a side collection of a lot of iconic type of cards. Like, I have slabs of, I just picked up at the Philly show, Walter Payton's rookie card. I picked up a PSA 5 of him at the Philly show. I didn't have one. I had one before, and it's like, eventually I'll get Griffey's rookie, all the basic, ones that people know. Like, I have a collection, and that's the investment. Eventually maybe I'll, upgrade them to a higher grade ones. But for now, I'm just glad to have them. And then I have some oddball ones. I collect more, instead of the cards aspect, I collect more memorabilia, full-size helmets, jerseys, and stuff like that for my eventually future man cave. And to be able to display on the wall, display in the background and everything else like that. I have a goal to have all 32 teams, NFL teams, helmets on the sides of the walls, AFC on one side, NFC on the other, all at least signed by someone from those teams. And that took trying to sit there, right, and think of this. Like, you can think of your team you follow, but try to think of 31 teams of who you would want on their helmets. How many teams have so many greats that came across there, right? And every person's different. They're all going to give you the different answers. I sat down and spent hours just like, well, I want a Deion Sanders auto. Well, instead of having him on the Cowboys, well, get him on the Falcons, right? Because and then you can take that, and all right, what about this and then that? Jumping around, it's pretty interesting. So I have a pretty big memorabilia collection with baseballs and bats and jerseys and helmets and stuff like that. And then the last one is like 8x10s or higher photos, signed photos, and celebrities and other things. Because I remember Chris Justice, he did a lot of the TriStar, the Leaf, mystery photos, the 8x10s and everything. And he did cheap breaks. Like, you're getting spots for like $10 for a last name letter for a case. And I have autos of Sandler, Christian Bale, Tom Hanks, and a Forrest Gump, 8x10, a whole bunch of them. And now it's turning into, these 8x10s that I'm getting pictures with these athletes and stuff. When I'm doing stuff, I eventually want to get them signed, because I'm going to have them on the wall with me. So it's overall, I have a plethora of different things and just all over the place.
Nothing wrong with that, and it's cool. And I love how it shows the analytical side, right? Like, you can get Dion on the Dallas helmet, but then that might eliminate Aikman or Emmett or someone, even Staubach, right? But you put him on the Falcons, that clears the way for the Dallas auto still, right? So it shows that analytical mind.
Yep.
You kind of using some strategy here to how to make the best, 32 helmets that you can get if you go with one signature per. And there's no wrong. Now, I always say there's no wrong way to hobby. It's what you enjoy. You can always change the direction you're going if it it does get stale to you, or you're not enjoying it as much. And so you always say, I always say, you're the CEO of your own hobby. You can decide what direction you want to go in, and different things you do.
And that's another thing I can bring up. It's resiliency, right? If you in this industry, and a lot of things that you do in real life, right? I'm a master resiliency certified by University of Penn, that I got through the military and everything. And there's a lot of tools and techniques that you go through adversity, and it's what you do when you bouncing back from it, what you do after that, is what makes you, right? And there's a lot of tips and tricks that you can do to help yourself get out of that rut, get out of that stuff that's happening maybe, and stuff like that, that could lead to other things, just the downfall and stuff, whatever. And you can use it in this hobby, in this industry, so much, like, oh, I went all in on Trevor Lawrence, and look at this. Well, all right, maybe just use some of that money, find another prospect, and you can just talk it out and everything else like that. So yeah, it's like you were saying, you have to be able to divert and whatever. That's where I bring in the resiliency aspect a lot, and helping people overcome the adversity sometimes that you can have in this hobby.
And every once in a while, I'll get a DM, Alex, or an email, or even someone directly and say, John, like, I'm a little burnt out, right? The hobbies, I'm not in a good place with it. And sometimes I'll tell them, like, take a break, take a weekend off, take a couple weeks off, take a month off, right? You don't have to do, your cards don't have to go anywhere.
Nope.
Wherever they are, they can stay. Just kind of take a breather from it. And you'd be surprised you do that. It's the old cliche saying, right? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Sometimes you'll miss it. You don't miss it because you're always doing it. But if you take a little bit of a break from it, excuse me, you'll realize, like, hey, I do love it. Maybe I just need to cut back a little bit so I appreciate it, where I'm not just overwhelming myself with it. And I've given out that advice, and I've gotten responses back. Hey man, that was great advice. I took a couple weeks. I didn't open eBay. I didn't touch any of my cards. I didn't do anything. And I missed it, and I came back, and I was just like recharged and ready to get back on the horse again. And it's just a matter of taking a break. Sometimes we need a break. And like you said, it's not just a hobby. It could be anything. That's why we get vacations, or hopefully you get free people. I don't want someone listening like, I don't know what a vacation is, but that's why we get vacations from the jobs we have, or hopefully you do, right? To kind of, get away and recharge, and however that may be, whether that's a staycation or traveling somewhere, for a week or what have you. So, sometimes that's, or just pivoting, maybe, hey, this doesn't do it for me anymore. I'm gonna collect, cut autos. I'm gonna collect memorabilia. I never collected memorabilia before. I'm gonna dip my toe in that pool. And so, there's just, the hobby's so big and has so many tentacles to it. I always tell people, if one way just doesn't do it for you anymore, try a different way, and it's worth a shot. And even like different levels of income. There's I know the hobby can be an expensive hobby. We both know that, but there's other it can be affordable too. There's different levels to that.
Yes, 100%.
So we kind of opened up with talking about the grind. You're a busy guy. You mentioned Hobby News Daily. You write for them. You do a lot of you're big on social media. Well, before we get into the grind, kind of, what for those that don't know, what you do, some of the companies you work with, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so so I started writing for Hobby News Daily about a month and change ago, which is now inadvertently, a lot of people don't know this. I was also signed to SI Collectibles. So I'm gonna be writing for them too, and actually have about 5-6 pieces that I'm in the middle of writing right now, for them and everything. I'm just gonna be pumping out a lot of stuff for them. I know a couple of the individuals that were involved with it, from the Richmond area and stuff like that. And it's just like, hey, you're out and about. You're right there with the hobby. We have these other people that are, reporting on everything that's happening, throughout the world and stuff like that. Like, we'd like to see some pieces and stuff from, like, on the ground and everything else like that. So, so I took that on. It was incredible. I also work with the company Vaulted. Shane, it's the cases and the displays and stuff like that. Every once in a while, I'll make some videos. He sent me some products. I'll have me some of the best displaying products that are out there and else like that. And it all stemmed from me winning a giveaway. I won a giveaway for one of the cases. They actually could show the cards on the front, and it just turned into me. All the shows I was going to, the LCSs I was visiting and stuff. Everyone in there was like, "Where can I get this at?" Like, I really like this. Nothing against Zion cases or any other cases, because I didn't even have a Zion case back then. They're all good. All the cases are good, but some people just might want another one for a different reason, and they're just like, "Where's it at? Where can we find this?" And I'm all of a sudden he had a lot of traffic to his website for people doing orders in Richmond Tidewater area, and he's just like, maybe I should see a little bit of stuff from it. So it's been a great relationship, and glad to be a part of it. Stand up displays, I've done a few things with them and stuff too. Whatever, I do have a code. If you're ever looking to buy anything with stand up displays, discount code ArmyATC22, get a nice little 15% off. Right, and 15 or 20, actually, it might be 20%. Helps. That goes a long way. I know there's a lot of people these days want stand-up displays and get bulk orders and stuff, and that little bit extra comes off. But I know them really well. Dan, Caitlin, who's their one of the main people that go around in selling the product and stuff like that. Me and her, we've collabed multiple times prior to the national and everything else for some stuff that hopefully we'll be able to down the road. But also, am a media ambassador. I work with CSA show, which is also the Philly show. Well, not the same people, but the same group, whatever, kind of run both shows, and also leading into the national and media stuff for the national, and helping them with a whole bunch of different things, behind this and stuff. Because they're looking for the management out there, the change of the guard, we're going to discuss in a little bit. Out there is looking for a lot of feedback from the people that go to the shows, right? They're like, how can we make this better and everything else? And they saw how much that I'm already involved already with a couple of shows that they're involved with it too. Getting my 2 cents and helping out and stuff like that with the trade nights and everything else too is going a long way, because I'm here for the people, right? The hobby is the people, and without the people, like, we wouldn't have a hobby. So so I dabble in a little bit of everything.
And now people know what I was talking about in the open when I said one of the hardest working guys in the hobby. And like you said, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I'm not traveling as much as you, so I'm not trying to compare that, but I do a lot of shows in the central New York, northern New York area. Then I go to some of these shows, not as a dealer anymore, but just in support of the podcast and as a collector to buy some cards and that sort of thing. And I don't do probably, 1/8, 1/6 of what you're doing. And it can be a grind sometimes, or I have to look at my phone and like, what do I got coming up? Where do I got to be? I can't do this because I'll be there. Awesome having Alex on. Really had fun chopping up some hobby with him. We're not done, as we now do double episodes. Come back next Friday for the second half, if you will, of this great conversation. And really great guy and busy, but made time for us, and appreciate that. So part 2 next Friday. We're going to hear from our Hobbies the People announcer, some closing thoughts, and wrap up this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
Hey guys, this is Dylan from YouTube, Double D Vintage Baseball Cards, reminding you that the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.